Hey everyone. So when we look at our investments right now, challenging times. However, commodities are hot and copper just hit an all-time high. So when we look at this space, who are some of the key companies to look for? We dive into it in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the TDR podcast, and I'm happy to be joined as we talk about commodities here today with the CEO of Universal Copper, Clive Massey. Clive, how are things?
Very good. Thank you, Shad. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. You're obviously focused on the copper industry. So, where are we right now? There's been a lot of interest pertaining to this. I know it still continues to be kind of underdeveloped across the world, but most importantly, before we get into who you are and what your company, what can you share about the current landscape of the industry as investors are leaning more and more towards this?
Well, there's been very strong demand for copper recently, and it continues to increase. Copper was recently at an all-time high, and
Yeah.
this is being driven primarily by two things. One, the increasing adoption rates of electric automobiles, and also as the third world continues to develop. Let's face it, there's nothing happening anywhere without a piece of wiring to connect a generator to a light bulb, so to speak.
How much do you see, I guess, lifestyles of people changing? Like, you look at the price of gas right now, 2 liters, $5 a gallon, obviously in the US. But when we look at the emergence of electric cars, I'd like to learn more about what copper has to play with that. And most importantly, too, the overall emergence of the industry pertaining to it.
Well, simply put, if you take a Tesla, for example, um, each wheel has its own motor. Each of those
Hmm.
motors are wound with copper wiring. Copper wiring is also used throughout the car to conduct, obviously, the electrical impulse. Each electric car contains roughly 165 pounds of copper, whereas conventional internal combustion engine has about 55 pounds. So
Wow.
again, as adoption rates of these cars continue to increase, and the gas companies, let's face it, being the biggest promoters of electric cars, the demand for copper is going to continue to strengthen, I believe,
There's 165 pounds per vehicle. Like, do we have an
per
idea as to how
vehicle.
many vehicles manufactured globally that we'll see, like, annually over the next couple of years?
I apologize, Shad. I do not know the answer to that question off the top
It's
of
a
my
lot,
head.
though. It's a lot,
It's a
though, I
lot.
would think. Yeah.
It's a
I'm sure.
lot.
I'm sure Mr. Elon Musk will have some say to that as well. But we want to focus, obviously, when we have people on, we'd like to get an understanding of who you are, what does it mean as far as your project that you're doing, and most importantly, why investors should care. So if you're sitting in front of a group of investors about Universal Copper, what's the message that you convey to them? And most importantly, the opportunity that you can provide for them when it comes to a return on their investment?
Well, I think in terms of my own background, I have a lot to offer. I've been in industry for 35 years. This is the third copper company which I have been involved in. And we have a very strong technical team as well as a seasoned advisory team. We have a significantly advanced project which also already has a 43101 defined resource on it. And we see an opportunity to increase that significantly.
So you brought up your project, so let's dive right into that. The 61,566 hectare Poplar Project is ideally located for potential development in central British Columbia. The property is bisected by an all-weather haul road. Railheads are in the area. You have the deep water seaport of Prince Rupert nearby, and power lines cross the actual property. So saying all this, you were explaining actually off camera that there's a lot of great resources out there, but what often gets overlooked is the location of drill sites. So how viable, obviously, is this location?
Well, with the infrastructure, which you've just pointed out, and with today's copper price, economically, this is a very attractive project. It's in a highly prospective rock package, the Casulqua Hazelton rock package, which is about a 125-kilometer long rock package. And that rock package itself hosts a number of other junior miners as well as a couple of senior miners. And the area, in my view, as copper prices continue to strengthen, is ripe for some kind of M&A activity.
So how did it all start? Like, where did the story begin and why this location? Because it seems to be a viable one.
In the 1970s, the project was discovered through the construction of a road through copper outcrop. And since then, the project has seen a wide range of exploration, beginning with soil sampling and culminating in drilling. There has been stops and starts in the exploration cycles over the years. Those really have only been a reflection of the ups and downs in the copper cycle. In other words, when the copper cycle is low, there's not much interest in people looking for copper. When the price is high, as it is today, obviously interest strengthens dramatically. And having been in the copper business for a very long time, I recognized a number of years ago that copper prices were going to strengthen, and that's why we acquired this project.
Is this the most lucrative that you've seen, the demand for copper throughout your career? Have you seen better times? But this seems to be a viable time, do you not think?
I think that there are a number of things to consider that separate this uptick in the copper cycle from others. And that being, in previous upticks in the copper price, there have been a number of large copper deposits that have previously been discovered, just waiting for the right price so that they can go into production. In this instance, there aren't a large number of copper projects sitting in the wings waiting to go into production. Investment in the copper exploration business has been low over the last decade. As a result, there are not. So this is another one of the reasons why we see copper prices strengthening the way that we do at the moment.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Well, we focus on the project that you're obviously working on. It hosts a current indicated and inferred mineral resource of 290.3 million tons. It's an average upgrade of 0.32% copper, in which you're attempting to prove up to make the project an economically viable one for development. So walk us through why you're excited and the prospects, obviously, of increasing resources to level that ultimately is going to attract attention.
Well, Shad, to be clear, this is a pore-free copper deposit. And the Poplar deposit itself, we often refer to as the known area of discovery.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about porphyries is that they do not occur in isolation. In other words, they usually occur in clusters. So the area of known discovery, the Poplar, is the first of the areas which we've drilled within our claim boundary. And there are 12 other targets which have either a combination of the same aeromag signature, the same soil anomalies. So we believe that there are numerous opportunities at any one of these outlying targets to discover anywhere from another 2 to 3 billion pounds, which incidentally, when you take the 290 million tons, that equates to roughly 2 billion pounds of copper.
Wow, that's big. Well, you mentioned opportunity. You reported very positive assay results back in January. It was on the 18th of that month. You reported that you intersected 479.15 meters at 0.56% copper equivalent in hole 21 PC133 at your Poplar project. So a hole which is actually the 28th best copper hole drilled last year. So obviously great work. What's been the feedback with this particular hole? And, will we see a follow-up drilling results from phase 1 drilling program at Poplar having met expectations? Because on paper, it appears to be very valuable.
As a frame of reference, 479 meters, that's almost half a kilometer. That is a massive drill hole. As you pointed out. It's the 28th best drill hole drilled in industry last year. Aside from its length and its grade, it further illustrates and supports our geological theory that the grade of the deposit increases at depth. And the other thing I should point out is that mineralized intersection started almost at surface. That makes it potentially, obviously, something that starts at surface is far more economical than something that's 300 meters underground.
Right.
So it's quite significant, and it was very well received in the marketplace. We will have 2 more drill holes to report on, which are from that same round of drilling, which took place in November.
So what ultimately, I guess, is the end goal? Like, do you plan to develop a mine, or do you plan on selling the asset to another mining major?
Well, that's a very good question, Chad. I have been involved in the development of copper mines in the past.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, my friend, it is nothing less than brain damage. The last one, from the time of discovery to the time of production, took 10 years.
Wow.
And so we see the fastest path to profits for our investors through the sale of this asset.
Yeah.
So we intend to continue drilling the area of known discovery as well as the outlying anomalies. We have 2 drill programs planned, which will take us out to Q3. We expect to expand the area of known discovery as well as make some new discoveries within the claim block. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of other operators in the area. Mitsubishi and Sumitomo have been interested in the area in the past. And I believe that providing copper prices continue to strengthen and we're able to continue to expand the resource, I think that there will be a period of consolidation, either through some of the majors or through somebody like Mitsubishi or Sumitomo.
When we look at the progression of this project, your cash position, you recently closed a private placement totaling $2.55 million. Further to that, your company's share structure still remains under 90 million shares, so the float remains relatively tight. So having completed a financing, do you have enough, I guess, capital to fund your summer drill, which is slated to take place in July, if I'm correct?
That's more or less correct. We have 2 rounds of drilling planned, as I say, between now and Q3. Those programs, having closed that recent financing, are now fully funded. And there's always a necessity to raise more money, since this is a hamster wheel of raising and spending and raising and spending. But at the moment, the programs are fully funded. And we expect to be able to report on the first phase sometime around the end of May, and then we'll have some additional results probably looking out to the end of September.
When we look at the current price of copper, which we indicated earlier, which has recently hit record highs, falling just short of US $5 per pound. When we look at these levels, the incentive to initiate new exploration programs obviously still remains low, but knowing what we're seeing, the obviously interest in this industry, do you see that changing, knowing many analysts are predicting a big increase in copper prices in the near future?
Yeah, I see it changing actually right before our very eyes. There are a number of other copper juniors which have come to the market in the last 8 to 10 months. Copper prices going back 18 months ago were $3. Today they're $4.60.
Yeah.
There are some proponents in the market that are forecasting a price as high as $10 a pound. Even at today's,
do you agree with that price? Do you agree with that at $10?
I think it's potentially possible.
Yeah.
Demand continues to outstrip supply, and it's going to continue to outstrip supply. Some are forecasting as far out as 2030.
Wow. If the idea then, as you said before, is to be bought out, when we look at the industry overall, there are, as you said, a supply deficit of 4.7 million metric tons by 2030, which was according to CRU Group due to persistent underinvestment, saying that how bullish on the long-term prospects of copper price increases in majors acquiring new proven copper deposits?
Well, we're extremely bullish. We believe that copper prices, as a result of a number of the aforementioned things, such as adoption rates of electric cars, copper has also recently been adopted and talked about in the mass media as the green metal. And as I also mentioned, as the third world continues to develop, the demand for copper is going to continue to grow. There aren't any large viable deposits sitting in the wings waiting to get permitted and constructed. So it's going to have to come from new supply. And it's, as I mentioned earlier, from the time of discovery to the time of production can easily be a period of 10 years. We already have a major discovery. We believe very strongly, for a variety of reasons, that we're going to be able to increase that significantly. The threshold that mid-tier and senior mining companies look at often is about £500 million, and we believe that we can make that mark over the next couple of years.
Which is exciting to say the least.
Very exciting.
Yeah, when I look at the industry as a whole, this industry seems to be being modernized more and more in recent times. Do you find that there's younger generations now getting involved as far as this investment community, knowing that there's a big component related to environmentally friendly and different resources that people are drilling for? And does that matter?
Well, I think it's important in a variety of ways. I mean, if you look at the Dow's performance, for example, since the crash of 1929, it is a line which continues to go up. Now, it's had its retractions, and what really is that driven by? Well, every year there are more and more investors. The more investors we have in the market, the healthier the market is going to be, and the higher the volumes are going to be. Seeing, record volumes recently in the market. And so I think it's important to continue to attract new investors. It's also, the other thing I see within industry is that there are younger people coming into the business on the industry side, i.e. mining engineers, geologists, company management, all of the above. So I think the industry is going to continue to grow. I think it's going to continue to attract more investors. And as the mass media continues to just talk about copper prices strengthening, continuing to rise, of course, it's going to attract more investment dollars.
Do you find a lot of the geologists today are getting into the industry for the same reasons as, say, a geologist 30 years ago?
I think fundamentally they do. I think, people get into industries for different reasons. And as they spend time in those industries, their reasons for continuing to be involved evolve as time goes on. But it's very encouraging to see the interest from, millennials in the market and in the industry.
So right now, company, and I know a lot of people will say, and I know you'd mentioned this off camera when breaking down the math, and I was hoping you could actually walk my viewers through this, about every CEO wants to claim that their stock is undervalued, but you need to back that up with actual results. But what you're producing now, where you're valued at currently at a market cap, explain it further into detail as to the, the math equation that you came up and walked us through.
Well, simply put, if you imagine that we have 2 billion pounds of copper, copper's trading at $4.60 today. Generally, you value things as an in situ value, and the in situ value of copper is generally considered to be about a dime. In other words, a pound of copper, when it's in the ground, is worth about a dime.
Okay.
So that gives us a valuation based on 2 billion pounds of copper of $200 million.
Yeah.
With 89 million shares out, we're trading at roughly a market cap of $8 to $9 million. So we are significantly undervalued when you look at the value of our asset.
Yeah. When I look at your company too, you want to talk about some of the people even included, not to mention Alan Wainwright. You were speaking with him with regards to his obviously well-connected within the space, but some of the connections that he has and the relationships that he has to help further develop the company.
Yeah, I think aside from the fact that we technically have a very attractive project, we have a very good technical team. Alan Wainwright is a PhD specifically in the area of porphyries. Dan McNeil is an extremely seasoned geologist. Tim Henenberry is our QP. Tim has been in industry for approximately 37 years. So aside from the fact that these people are very seasoned, they have the connections that are necessary to make a transaction happen. So moving
Can you give it an
forward,
example, Clive? Can you give an example?
Example in what respect, Shad?
Just as far as connections and some of the relationships to speed up the process a little bit quicker than the average company.
Well, as I say, I mean, our technical people have relationships with other technical people at a variety of mid-tier and major mining companies. And of course, you know, that's the key thing to any business. Right. You know, I could call Elon Musk. I know precisely who he is, but there's no real reason that he might call me back. Whereas, you know, our technical people can call up some of these people in the technical department at some of these other mining companies, and chances are they're going to get a call back.
Right.
So, you know, it's important to be able to leverage relationships in any business.
Yeah. So a lucrative area, the increase of copper on the rise, and obviously continue to be underdeveloped. So obviously a very, very lucrative time to get into this, you know, as far as a company from an investment standpoint. Is there any clear message that you want to indicate or outline to our investors or our viewers as we wrap up here?
Well, I think the some of the key points to remember about Universal Copper is that we have an advanced asset. We have a highly skilled management team.
Yeah.
We have a very, very good technical team. We still have a reasonably tight share structure. And we are, based on the math I ran through a few minutes ago, we are still significantly undervalued. And if you look at our share price, one could argue we're one of the least expensive calls on copper out there if you believe copper's going higher.
Yeah. Where can investors find you?
Well, we trade over the counter in the U.S. We trade on the Frankfurt Exchange, and we also trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
And ticker symbol is what?
UNV.
Sorry, what was the ticker symbol again? UNV?
UNV on the TSX.
Perfect. Well, listen, like the story that you're building here, very lucrative spot to say the least, and obviously some great drill results recently. So all the best moving forward. Let's please keep in touch because we'd like to obviously follow this story as you have further developments.
Thanks very much for having me, Shad. I really appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time.
All right. Thanks, Clive. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you giving this video a thumbs up. We also value your feedback, so leave a comment below. And if you like what we do, then share this video on your socials. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tap on that bell to receive notifications for all future videos that we post. Thanks for watching.